Hey, sixth grade. So sorry about that. There was a glitch in the matrix, but this is part two of your Wednesday, April 15th history lecture video. I'm going to dive right in. So we were talking about the factors leading up to the Protestant Reformation. And that were these church heroes, is what your book says, and I think I agree with them. Because the punishment for disagreeing with the church was not just an awkward conversation with your parents or, getting sent to the principal or even being fined. The punishment was being tied to a piece of wood and then being burned alive. So when you took on the church, your life and your soul was at stake. And so the people who stood up to the Catholic Church during the Middle Ages were brave, brave people. They were just as brave as the Christian martyrs for the Roman Church. And you can see there's a picture of a drawing. You can see it kind of in the corner of the person who's being tied to the stake as they bring the fire. Um, and it was a big deal. So these guys are all in your book. If you don't remember all of them or you don't get all of the notes right now as I speak, obviously all this stuff is from your book. So the first guy you have is Peter of Bruis, and he was caught by church officials and he was burned at the stake. Um, and unfortunately, many of his followers, the Petrobrusians, were also rounded up by the Catholic Church and burned for questioning the church. They were called heretics. We're going to talk about them in a second. So his followers were called Petrobrusians. There was another man whose name was Peter Waldo, and he got in trouble. He was from Switzerland. He translated the Bible into French, and he said people should be able to read this book for themselves. And the church said nope. They controlled the message, and so luckily he got away, so he was not burned, but he did flee and was on the run until his death. His followers were called Waldensians. Next, you have John Huss, who was a Czech monk, who also said that, basically their idea was the Catholic Church was saying, in order to get into heaven, you need us, you need the church. And Huss and a lot of these other guys were saying, no, you don't. You can read the Bible, you can pray, and you can come to know Jesus through your own beliefs, and that's good enough. And the church, the Catholic Church at the time, I'm not saying today, there's people not doing that today, but at the time, the Catholic Church rounded these people up and tortured them and killed them. And so John Huss was stood on trial, and they said, recant, say you're lying. And he wouldn't do it. And so they tied him up and burned him alive. And his followers, the Hussites, many of them also met the same fate. It's important to remember today, we have an idea of like a live and let live. We have a free and independent society. So, you might be a Mormon or a Baptist or a Presbyterian or a Catholic or a Muslim or a Hindu, and even though people may disagree, they don't kill each other over it. But in the Middle Ages, they did. So, all of this stuff was very, very serious business. But all of those people are fighting over control of the gospel. You know, the Bible is a long, complicated book. It's a great book, but it's long and complicated. And even if you can read, most people have not read the whole Bible. And so people wanted to just be able to tell other people what was in it. Don't worry about reading it. This is what it means. Just listen to us. They were trying to control it because if you can get somebody to believe that you have the key to the gates of heaven, well, they're obviously going to do what you say. If you honestly believe that somebody can get you eternal salvation, and they say, and all you have to do is pay me this amount of money, you're going to pay them the money. And if you believe that somebody says, hey man, I can kick you out of heaven and you'll burn in hell for forever, well then you're going to do what they say. You want to be nice to them because you don't want them to do that to you. So, how do you get to heaven? That's the question, I guess. You have another Christian hero, a guy named John Wycliffe. and he translated the Bible into English. And he's known as the morning star of the Reformation because he came right before Martin Luther. And Martin Luther, as we're going to see, I'm going to make another video on Friday. Martin Luther was a big deal. But Martin Luther's Protestant Reformation never could have happened without John Wycliffe, John Huss, and the two Peters. But his followers were called the Lollards, and the church tried to snatch him up too, but he got away and he died before they could catch him. But all of them were threatening the authority of the church. There's these different church leaders who are saying, you don't need the Pope. You don't need a priest to tell you. Well, that threatens the whole institution. If people don't need to listen to you, then why would they go to church and give you money? If people don't believe you, then why are they going to, give you land and, work in your fields? So the Catholic Church sets up a special court called the Inquisition. And it was their job to find Christians, not Muslims or other people, to find Christians who were not believing in the Catholic orthodoxy or correct belief. And anybody who disagreed or who had incorrect beliefs, I'm using air quotes, was called a heretic. And so the Inquisition could go into any town in Europe, and if somebody said, oh, Cash is a heretic, he believes that you don't need to listen to the Pope, well, they could arrest you, they could torture you, they could execute you off of the Pope's authority. And so people were very afraid. The only rule that the Inquisition had was that they couldn't draw blood. Well, you can hurt somebody really bad without drawing blood. So they would use fire, they would use the rack and dislocate people's joints. They did terrible, terrible things sometimes. And, if you put somebody through enough pain, they'll admit to anything. And so the church could go into a town and say, this person is a heretic, and then just basically torture them until they admitted it. And then once they admitted it, they could be burned at the stake. And if you're a villager and you see some of your other friends getting, caught up by the Inquisition, well, you're not going to rise up. You're going to keep your head down probably. And so the Catholic Church used the Inquisition to terrorize and control people for hundreds of years. Now, they didn't only use negative aspects. They also used, positive aspects, but it was definitely the idea of fear and control that the Inquisition was leaning into. So all of this leads to Martin Luther, a German monk, to stand up, to protest the church. We're going to learn about that on Friday, and I'll post another short video, but I just want you to get from these videos the idea that the Catholic Church during the Middle Ages was not just a cool place that you went to hear the word of the Lord, or to pray with your friends, or to sing, deep cries out. The church during the Middle Ages was big business. The popes were often more powerful than kings. They were often richer than kings, and their power sometimes even superseded that of kings. And so the money, the power, the influence, the land, the connections, all of that was at stake. And so whether it was John Huss or John Wycliffe or Martin Luther, if the church saw any kind of threat to their authority, to their legitimacy, they came down hard. And so the church during the Middle Ages is a powerful, powerful institution. The Catholic Church spans through England, through France, Switzerland, Italy, Spain, the New World even in later centuries. But it's a big, big thing that was worth money. And so we will see in the following chapters that a king's religion, a country's religion, not only says something about like them spiritually, but wars will be fought. Catholic countries versus Protestant countries. Monarchs, the kings and queens of England, will switch Catholic and Protestant and kill people who don't get in line. And so the church at this time is control, its authority, its power. Now, I'm not saying that it is today, but during the Middle Ages, it certainly was. Anyways, sorry about the technical hiccup. I hope you guys are doing well. I can't wait till this is over and we're back in class. We may start doing like Zoom conferences where we are all FaceTime each other. That would be cool just to see how you guys are doing and holding up. I grew a mustache for a while. Did not go well, but locked up getting stir crazy. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys again. Don't forget to take your test on Friday. All right, have a great day. Goodbye.